Welcome back to another video. I'm Mike Benitez. Today we're going to be doing another ship video. However, today's ship video will be about the deadliest maritime sea disaster in history. I'm surprised that this shipwreck has probably been forgotten due to shipwrecks like Titanic and Lusitania. Now, many people think that Titanic was the deadliest shipping disaster in history. Well, you're wrong. Titanic was one of the deadliest, but was not the deadliest. The deadliest happened on January 30th, 1945. And this wreck was just thinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff. Let's begin the story of this infamous sinking. It is January 1945. World War II is on its last months, and Germany is losing the war against Europe. Knowing Germany's fate, Adolf Hitler gets words that the Red Army has broken through the front lines and is heading towards East Prussia. He needs to evacuate civilians and the wounded from that area. So he launches Operation Hannibal, which would take civilians and the wounded from East Prussia on evacuation ships to the Baltic Sea, to home Germany. Many ships took place in Operation Hannibal. However, the biggest and probably the most famous of the bunch was the German cruise ship Wilhelm Gustloff. The Wilhelm Gustloff had been built in 1938 for the Kraft durch Freude organization, or Joy Through Strength. It was a Strength Through Joy organization by Nazi Germany to propose the ideas of the national system. However, the Wilhelm Gustloff was only a cruise ship for a matter of months. The ship was supposed to be named Adolf Hitler, but in fact Adolf Hitler himself decided to rename the ship after Wilhelm Gustloff, a very famous German leader that was assassinated in 1936. After the start of World War II, the Wilhelm Gustloff became Lazarettschiff D, or battleship, or hospital ship D, a hospital ship built to carry the wounded, and she will be stationed at numerous places. However, this was also short-lived, as in 1940 she was converted into a living quarters for the 2nd Submarine Training Division, and she was repainted into standard naval gray livery. In this service, she will be pictured with many ships, like the Cape Arcona, which would be the Nazi Titanic in the movie Titanic 1943. However, there will be a real Nazi Titanic disaster, and on January 30th, 1945, that ship was the Wilhelm Gustloff. January 30th, 1945, Danzig. Wilhelm Gustloff is in port, getting ready to leave for the evacuation operation. Many people are boarding her in search of hope in home Germany. Today, she is carrying well above her capacity of people. She is carrying a crew of 173, 918 officers from the submarine division, 373 female naval auxiliary helpers, 162 wounded soldiers, and 8,956 civilians, 5,000 of whom are children. She is very overcrowded. Due to there being controversial of how many people were on board the Gustloff, it is safe to say that the total of people on board the Gustloff that day was 10,582. As the ship prepares to leave Danzig with the liner Hansa and the destroyer Low and another torpedo boat. However, even though she was carrying 162 wounded soldiers, the Germans, obedience to the rules of war, decided not to paint Wilhelm Gustloff in a hospital livery like she was back in the early 1940s. Instead, she remains the similar gray standard naval gray livery. This would be a big mistake. 12:30 p.m., January 30th, 1945. The Wilhelm Gustloff departs Danzig. However, the Hansa and the torpedo boat were having mechanical problems and could not continue the voyage. Wilhelm Gustloff is alone with the destroyer low. This is the last known photo of the Wilhelm Gustloff. As the ship sails into the Baltic Sea, there are 4 captains aboard her. The captain of the Wilhelm Gustloff herself, 2 mariners, and a captain of a U-boat. The U-boat captain is very concerned about being in shallow water. However, that night there is a warning. That about a German convoy passing by. So the Wilhelm Gustloff's navigation lights are turned on in hopes of not having a collision. This would be a huge mistake. 6 hours after leaving port is the submarine S-13, a Soviet submarine commanded by Alexander Marinskino. She, like the Gustloff, have anti-aircraft guns, rendering both ships defenseless. It is 6 hours after the Gustloff has left port. Soon, the Gustloff is spotted by the S-13. She is off the Gustloff's starboard side. For 2 hours, the S-13 hunts the Gustloff along with the escort low. Soon, the Soviet submarine is able to get behind the 2 German ships and gets into position. Marinskino orders 4 torpedoes to be loaded. One torpedo is scribbled for the motherland. The second for Leningrad. The third for the Soviet people. The fourth had to be dismantled because it jammed in the tube. It was supposed to have read for Stalin. Then Captain Marinskino orders the S-13 to fire her 3 torpedoes at the Wilhelm Gustloff. The Gustloff's fate is sealed. The first torpedo hits the Wilhelm Gustloff right in the bow. This caused the bulkhead sealed doors to be sealed off, leaving many crew members that were sleeping in the bow, that had many of the sleeping quarters, trapped underwater. Many were killed in the explosion, while others drowned. The second torpedo hits Wilhelm Gustloff right in the middle. The 373 naval females are sleeping in the drained first-class swimming pool. The second torpedo causes an explosion that ruptures all the glass. Glass disperses everywhere, and water starts flooding the room immediately. Out of the 373 in that room, only 3 survived. The third torpedo hits Wilhelm Gustloff right in the stern. This disables all power from the Wilhelm Gustloff. The ship is doomed. The ship begins an immediate list of port, the side where the torpedo struck her. The ship is going to sink. The overcrowded ship becomes the scene of complete chaos. Passengers are crushed to death in the stairways, or drowned below decks, or were killed by the explosions themselves. Many people scramble for the lifeboats as the ship begins to sink very rapidly. The destroyer Low begins to arrive on the scene. However, many people are already dead. Lifeboats are smashing into the water. Many are even killed by the lifeboats themselves as they are crushed to death or thrown into the sea. Reportedly, only 9 lifeboats were ever launched in the sinking. The rest were frozen onto their davits. 20 minutes after the sinking, the Wilhelm Gustloff is listing very badly to port. Fires break out below decks, and everyone is screaming for their lives. Children are heard crying for their parents. Women are screaming to their deaths in the sea below, and the Wilhelm Gustloff herself is sinking beneath the waves. As the list gets worse and worse, many people are just scrambling for higher ground. Due to the heat and the overcrowded ship, many people are taking off their life jackets, which was highly against the rules at the time. This caused many people to drown to their deaths. However, many people are still trying to fight for their lives in the freezing water as the Wilhelm Gustloff continues to sink. As the ship begins to capsize, many people are thrown into the ocean as the onrushing seas continue to envelop the quickly sinking Gustloff. The crew aboard S-13 watch as the Wilhelm Gustloff sinks beneath the waves. Many survivors report hearing screams down below on the decks, knowing they could do nothing to save them. Many passengers are trapped on the promenade decks as the ship begins to capsize. Knowing that the lights had gone out, many people would have been blind to see anything in front of them. As slowly the Gustloff is sinking. Soon enough, she is lying on her side. 40 minutes after the torpedoes hit, the Gustloff is lying completely on her side. Passengers are trapped in the port on the starboard side promenade deck as water slowly envelops the deck. Many people, including one of the captains, tried to save them, but it is too late. Many people in the promenade decks never got out alive. It is amazing that people were able to survive the sinking, including those 3 women from the pool deck. The second torpedo had dislodged some tiles, which caused heavy casualties in that specific area. The crew aboard the destroyer Low witnessed a horrifying scene as the Gustloff sinks beneath the waves rapidly. Amazingly, all 4 captains were able to escape and survive the sinking. However, they are faced with screams of terror of people trying to survive, and the groaning noises of the great Gustloff herself sinking beneath the waves. The wind howls as the ship is nearly almost completely underwater. And the lifeboats aboard on the starboard side break from their davits and slide across the deck, killing and crushing anyone in their paths. People would feel the terror in those people's eyes, including that of the captain of the Gustloff herself, as he sees his mighty ship sink beneath the waves. Then, the suffering of the Gustloff is done. An hour after being struck, the mighty Wilhelm Gustloff sinks beneath the waves, carrying many of them to their deaths. Many people witnessed the horrifying scene of the great ship finally sinking beneath the waves. Silence falls. The flagship of the KDF, the legendary Leisure Fleet, is gone. Sank beneath the waves within an hour. She has only left port 9 hours ago, and now the refugees that were thought in hope of reaching Germany are now stranded in the open ocean. Several German ships arrive on the scene, while the submarine that caused it, S-13, is able to get away. A survivor of the disaster later did research on the sinking and came up with the conclusion that 9,343 passengers, civilians, refugees, and crew aboard the Wilhelm Gustloff did not survive the disaster, leaving very few survivors. Everyone is pretty now. I bet everyone's pretty darn shocked by this. How can a ship sink like this quick? I think it's due to the fact about the 3 torpedoes being struck, because a ship doesn't take long to sink if she is hit by more than one torpedo, let alone 3 torpedoes. It just would have been as terrifying to hear those 3 gigantic explosions, signaling the fate of the Wilhelm Gustloff. leaving to the depths a lot of innocent lives. Well over 9,000 lost their lives that night. Even one rescue ship found only one baby survived. 9,343 out of the 10,582 aboard the Gustloff died in the sinking, leaving only 1,000 surviving. It was the end of Hitler's super cruise ship. The same thing would go to the Gustloff's youngest sister, the Robert Ley. She would be destroyed in an air raid 2 months later. Many people have forgotten this wreck overshadowed by the Titanic, saying that Titanic was the worst disaster. But it wasn't. This was the deadliest sinking in history. Titanic had 1,500 deaths. Wilhelm Gustloff, 9,343. If you think Titanic was bad, you're wrong. This was way, way worse. However, the Gustloff is not forgotten. In 1960, darkness fell on Guftenhafen was made in honor of the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff. However, the most famous film would be Die Gustloff, made in 2008. However, in English, Die Gustloff was actually pronounced Ship of No Return, the last voyage of the Wilhelm Gustloff. To me, this was the perfect way of telling the story of the Wilhelm Gustloff and her ultimate demise, along with 9,343 aboard her. Now the Gustloff lies at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, a severely damaged wreck of what was once a beautiful ocean liner that lost her life in the hands, or should I say, torpedoes, of a Soviet submarine. Thank you very much for joining this video, and please, don't think as Titanic as the worst disaster. Think of the Wilhelm Gustloff as the worst disaster. I am Michael Benitez, signing off on the ship that there has been 2 movies made about her, documentaries, and books being made about her. I am Michael Benitez, signing off of the story of the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff, the deadliest maritime disaster in sea history.